Y'all can tell I'm at the Haytag Heritage Center, and of course, we've got all kinds of things going on. As a matter of fact, there's a group here of community activists, and of course, they're talking politics as well, and of course, being voter engagement as well as community engagement and things like that. So I'd like to be talking to them very shortly and everything. But right now, we've got world politics, and I've got my good friend Rick Rosner, so I'm gonna bring him in, see what he's got going on, and of course, Jacoby may be joining us later as well. But a lot of people are talking about tariffs, as we were doing earlier, and who knows, maybe Kim and others will be joining us as well. But let's check it out and see what Rick's got going on. Hey, Rick, how's it going?
All right, how you? So another bad day in the stock market. It's in correction territory for the NASDAQ, for the S&P. The Dow is almost there. That means it's 10% down from its all-time highs. And it's all happened under our guy with his tariffs.
Yep, definitely. And I know a lot of people are talking about these tariffs. So are we going to have tariffs on all over the world? Are we going to have tariffs on Africa, tariffs on Europe, tariffs on Ireland, tariffs on the UK? How far are these tariffs going to go?
I don't know. It depends on if the people around Trump can talk him out of it. He's not good at stuff. He's mostly good at bullshitting. He owns more of the worst days in stock market history than any other president. 2020 was one of the worst years in American history, largely because of COVID. And that was under Trump, and it crashed the stock market. Now, the stock market popped back up pretty fast, but it was terrible for business. And, and terrible for, people being dead, grandmas and grandpas. And Trump isn't a guy who, learns or knows stuff. So we'll see. He's also underwater in net approval now on the conservative poll aggregator site, Real Clear Polling. The more centrist poll aggregator, 538, was shut down by its owner, ABC Disney, the day after Trump dropped into negative territory there last week or the week before. But now even the conservative pollsters are showing that people aren't liking what he's doing.
Well, one of the things that he did earlier today, apparently he asked the Supreme Court to allow him to end birthright citizenship. And I know that was a big issue that he brought up during the Obama administration, but he's asked the Supreme Court to intervene in cases challenging birthright citizenship order and everything. So it looks like he's trying to bring back this whole notion of
and it's just crappy. The America has room for people the same way we've had for our entire history. For the first time in our history, any increases in the U.S. population, and people generally agree that growth is good, that a growing population helps our economy. Any increases in our population are now due to immigration. We are not anywhere near to making enough kids, through baby making to replace the people who are dying, because, they get old, they get sick, they die. Every woman needs to average 2 kids to do population replacement. And we're at 1.6 kids per woman. And, so we have room for immigrants. Yep. And we have room for people to be citizens if they're born in America, as it has been for the entire history of America.
Well, the other thing that happened today is the judge ordered Trump to rehire probationary workers. I know Jacoby talked about that earlier, let go in the mass firings across multiple agencies. So apparently probationary workers may be coming back to work and everything because they've been ordered to rehire them. So what's your thoughts on this notion of people?
Right. So DOJ has fired about 100,000 government workers. The stock market and claims to have saved $105 billion, but those claims don't stand up to, when newspapers, when journalists look at the claims, they find they're exaggerated or mistaken. the stock market has lost $5 trillion so far under Trump. So even if you believe Doge's figures, Trump has cost Americans 50 times as much through stock market declines as he's saved through Doge.
Well, and another thing that I saw, and Sasha may be interested in this, hopefully he'll be joining us later as well, but it looks like Russia has rejected the immediate ceasefire in Ukraine. So they just turned this down. He said Thursday he didn't support an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine, calling for more discussion on a permanent end of the war as Moscow's armies made rapid gains toward expelling Kiev forces from its Kursk region. So it looks like apparently we're not going to have this ceasefire as soon as we thought we were, because maybe he got some other tricks up his sleeves and everything. But what's your take on this? Because apparently he rejected this immediate ceasefire.
Nobody expected him to go for it. I don't think he hasn't made any signals of making any concessions. And why should he? He has a guy in running America who's on his side.
Yep. And speaking of people on his side, apparently Donald Trump rallied against Wall Street on Thursday after the paper, and it's a very influential paper, revealed that business leaders were being two-faced about the president's disastrous tariffs. So the globalist Wall Street Journal has no idea what they're doing or saying. They are owned by the polluted thinking of the European Union, which was formed for the primary purpose of screwing the United States of America, and that's what he raged in.
Isn't the Wall Street Journal? Isn't the Wall Street Journal owned by Rupert Murdoch, who owns and runs Fox News, who's been one of his biggest supporters and maybe responsible for his election, because Fox News gets into more people's heads than anybody.
Yeah, and like I said, he said a bunch of other things too. He said that the Wall Street Journal is antiquated and weak and very bad for the USA, but have no fear, we will win on everything. Egg prices are down, is what he's claiming. Oil is down, interest rates are down, and tariff-related money is pouring into the United States. The only thing you have to fear is fear itself. Wait a minute, wasn't that a famous quote from like some famous politician?
That's FDR during the Depression and leading into World War II. But Trump just says anything. He's just like whatever fly is buzzing near his head at the moment gets attacked.
Yep. Well, I'm bringing in Jacoby. Y'all can have some conversations. I've actually got to get to another part of the meeting here at ATAP, but I know he's going to have some thoughts around tariffs and other things as well. So
right,
I'll turn it over to you two for a while, and then I'll be back shortly and everything. But I'm going to turn it over to you two for a moment, and y'all can talk about what's going on the political land front.
Hello, Jacoby. I've just been ragging on Trump for the past 8 minutes. You got anything else? Oh, frozen? All right. So let's see if we can talk about something besides frickin' Mr. Trump. Let's go over to the Drudge Report. The Drudge Report is my favorite news aggregator. I hit it many times a day. It used to lean way right. Now it's pretty centrist. There, now you're unfrozen.
Yeah, I am in the middle of...
Oh. All right. What do we got here? Gold has hit record highs. I never loved gold as an investment. It's kind of a sucker's game. When you want to buy gold, it's too expensive.
Oh, there! Hey, I can see you there, Rick.
Okay, we were getting 2 seconds of Jacoby at a time. All right. Well, let's see what else. So let's see how much is gold now. It's $29.70 an ounce, which when I was a little kid, they had rules against Americans privately owning gold, and then when it went on the market, it was $35 an ounce in like the 70s, maybe. That was the time to buy gold. It quickly shot up to $800 an ounce under Jimmy Carter. That went back down, but now we're at $3,000 an ounce. The time to buy gold is get us in a time machine, Go back to the 60s and buy gold. But don't buy it now, because gold is a freak out investment. If you watch Fox News, they try to scare old people into buying gold coins because they say civilization is going to collapse and paper money won't be worth anything and you need gold. But then people freak out a little less, and then the price of gold drops and you've lost 10, 20% of money that you could have handed down to your kids. All right, what do we else? Warren Buffett, who is the stock market genius behind Berkshire Hathaway, which is one of the most successful stocks of the past 50 years. He has more cash on hand than like in decades. So, if you're going off of Warren Buffett, which you maybe should, now's not the best time to be, heavy in securities. And this article says he's likely selling his real estate empire. So let's talk about, with modern technology, office space, there's the opposite of a shortage. There's a glut of office space because people can work from home. So we have all these office buildings in big cities across America that are underoccupied or even empty. And it would be great to be able to convert those into residential because we have housing shortages in big cities across America. We've got a lot of that across California, but it's super expensive to convert office space into living space because we're okay with communal toilets in office buildings at work, just to pee. Some people won't poop at work, but if you need to, you can. And we're okay, most people are okay with, using group bathrooms, but nobody's, except college students living in dorms, is particularly okay with communal bathrooms in their living spaces. You don't want to leave your apartment and go down the hall to take a dump or to take a shower. That's the mark of either being in college or being on the skids and living in an SRO, single room only hotel with, that's, one step above Skid Row. But to plumb an office building so that, to subdivide it into spaces that are 500 to 1,200 square feet each, and then run plumbing to each of those spaces is super expensive and logistically challenging. But I have an idea, and I'm sure they'll do this at some point in the near future, which is frickin' everybody gets their own bathroom. You'd subdivide, and at night at 3 a.m., sewage robots wander the halls of the building. They take away your poop water, your pee water, and they deliver you a supply of fresh water. So you don't have to be centrally plumbed. You just have these big old tanker robots, that you send them out when most people are asleep. They plug into sockets in the outer wall of your apartment. They take away the used water and sewage, and they give you a fresh supply for showering, for dishwasher, for everything. And I bet you that solution would be much cheaper than plumbing, centrally plumbing every space in a former office building. All right, now what? Let's find more stuff to talk about that isn't Trump, because all we do is bitch about Trump. I mean, for good reason, but total eclipse, when's this? Total lunar eclipse tonight. I can't tell what time it's going to be, but it's called a blood moon. So, all right, what else? Also, when you get old, you get dry eyes. Some people get dry eyes, so I have to keep watering my eyes to even be able to read the Drudge Report. Also, nobody tells you this. When you get old, your body for some reason starts making. Well, everybody knows about that. Everybody gets ear hair, which is kind of gross, but you can pluck that. But you also make more earwax, which is weird and a little annoying. Here's a fun thing. At the University of Central Florida, frat brothers at Sigma Chi. If you join a frat, part of the ritual of joining one, I joined one, and part of the ritual is they put you through some friendly torture. Drinking games, getting paddled, and universities have stepped in to make the hazing less dangerous, less, of everything. But at Sigma Chi, University of Central Florida, drove cars into their pledges so. Sorority member whose house sits next door to Sigma Chi told police she heard yelling, saw a car strike a young man, and then heard someone shout, "Help, my bones, they're broken." So Sigma Chi and Delta Upsilon at the UCF are now suspended for brutal hazing. And I think Sigma Chi is maybe not the best frat. They've been suspended 8 times between 2015 and 2020, including 4 suspensions in 2019 alone. So if you're going to go to college, think about not going to the University of Central Florida, and definitely don't pledge Sigma Chi there. My frat was Phi Kappa Tau, and I pledged them because I lost my virginity to a woman I met at one of their parties. And I thought, well, heck, that was huge for me. So I owe them, a favor back. So I pledged them. And it was, being in a frat was mostly fun. Our frat house was across the street from Robert Redford's frat. And if you're young enough Robert Redford has been one of the biggest movie stars of the 70s, 80s, 90s. And the University of Colorado loves that. He went there. He didn't graduate. He dropped out and moved to New York to pursue his acting career. When I was a pledge, one of the things they did, they got us shit-faced. I took my shirt off and I ran across the street and I busted into the Robert Redford's frat and I stole a trophy from him and ran back, and then had to return it before anybody at the across the street frat noticed, because we were afraid of the across the street frat because they were bigger and more popular than we were, and nobody wanted to start a war with them. All right. I'm looking at Drudge, 80 Years of Lies and Deception, which is this article. Come on, it's all pop-ups. Hold on. No, that's not anything I want. The lies, damn it. It's a documentary about UFOs. And I think UFOs are horseshit. I think, there's plenty of footage of UFOs, which stands for unidentified flying object. But just because they're unidentified doesn't mean that they're aliens. There's no frickin' reason for aliens to spend hundreds of years to travel to take a look at Earth. If they have the technology to travel from their solar system around a whole other star, they have the technology to simulate and produce anything we can and stay home. The people who think a lot about the future say that that space exploration, spreading out to grab as much of the galaxy as you can, like as you see in Star Wars, that's a less likely trajectory for highly technological civilizations than it is to, we've seen it small scale and early days in what's happened on Earth with us, where in the 60s, space exploration was a big deal, that we went to the moon, which is only what, 1.5 light seconds from us, like 230,000 miles from us, where anything else is millions of miles from Earth. And the closest star to us, I think, is 40 trillion miles from us. It's 4 light years away from us. And it would take us centuries to get there with the kind of rocket ships we have now. But what we've seen is that interest in technology has shifted away from, space exploration to computing, to, our phones, our devices, to AI, to streaming, that we're more obsessed with our personal technology than, we could give a crap about space exploration. And it's not just because we're superficial and we love social media, it's because it has the potential to deliver more to us. So people who think about the future think that we're going to spend more and more of our resources on computation. And eventually we're going to outgrow the Earth in our need for computation. And that the futurists think that advanced civilizations might form things called Dyson spheres, where the Earth absorbs well under 1% of the sun's radiation, because the sun's way the hell away, and we're I don't know, probably not even 1/10 of 1% of the of the shadow that is, or of the, we're only in the way of, I don't know, 1/10,000th, 1/100,000th of the light coming from the sun. And that we use that energy, well, to grow people, to grow everything on Earth. And then we shed waste heat into space. But we need a ton of energy. We're going to need more and more energy for computing and an advanced civilization, a civilization that's hundreds of thousands of years old, in its need to capture more light from its star for computation and for building stuff, will start setting up like mirrors in space, or setting up, we could set up mirrors on the moon at some point to beam more sunlight to us. But that eventually a super advanced, million-year-old civilization might dismantle the planets near it and use it to set up a hollow sphere surrounding the entire sun to capture all of, or 80% of the light the energy coming from the sun. So instead of exploring space, a civilization will stay home and compute everything it needs. So, I think only a crazy civilization would send a bunch of spaceships out to explore, for thousands, tens of thousands. It would take a civilization possibly millions of years to traverse the galaxy. Now, a civilization might want to send an expedition to the center of the galaxy, because that's where a bunch of old civilizations might congregate, because you've got a massive black hole at the center of every galaxy. And a massive black hole might offer computational resources that wouldn't be available elsewhere. So it's possible, a civilization that's 1 million years old might decide it's worthwhile to take 100,000 years to send ships to the center of the galaxy, but not to send ships to a bullshit little planet like ours, when they could stay home, and if they wanted to simulate alien civilizations to see what they might be like, they could do that and save centuries and a ton of money. Jatovi?
I've been popping in and out of I had to restart my phone, but then I got a chance to listen to you talking about the space stuff, because the space stuff is so cool. Yeah, I mean, we're never going to be able to explore space the way that we see in the movies, because we don't have the technology. And even if we had, like the Dyson sphere you were just talking about, there's that theory that that the world is a Dyson sphere, or that we are living in a computer simulation. And the only way that computer simulation can happen is if it were powered by a Dyson sphere, because of the amount of computations that you would need to actually have that take place in our reality. And then on top of that, the amount of power it would need to push that level of computation in computers. And they who was it? I was watching Star Talk, I think it was, and they talked about how thin that Dyson sphere's sheet would have to be able to, and also how big it would have to be, because based on our location, the orbit of Earth around our sun, that's actually how big that Dyson sphere would have to be in terms of its.
We have to be inside it. So,
yep. So the actual Dyson sphere itself, the circumference would have to be the orbit of Earth.
Right.
And then, it would. So it's just interesting how they were talking about it and all the different things about the Dyson sphere itself. Just the cool idea behind it. As well as, I mean, space travel itself, until we figure out some way. I think I said it before. I mean, because even if we were to travel at light speed.
Well, no, the thing that makes cool science fiction possible, Star Wars, Star Trek, is being able to travel faster than light. If you're stuck, well, actually, there is one decent universe of movies that has sublight travel, and that's the Alien series. But the deal is like that's like a near future, and the reason that they're able to travel is that they put everybody into cryonic suspension and then wake them up when they get there.
Yep.
And the only thing that makes that cool is the monsters. Otherwise, it's a pretty shitty, boring universe.
Well, there's actually another. Well, the group that made Love, Death, and Robots, which is a great animated series, I highly recommend anybody and everybody watch it. It's on Netflix. They've got 3 seasons, beautifully done. The stories they tell are all self-contained within 12 to 20 minutes. And
it's AI CG. It's really good animation to the point where you can't even tell some of it is animation. So it looks freaking great.
And the storytelling is well done. Well, that same group then, some of the group went over and did a series on Amazon called Secret Level. In the one of the episodes in Secret Level is actually what we're discussing about how that time travel, I'm not time travel, but the space exploration, and how when an individual leaves in that space exploration and they're traveling at the speed of light, so time really doesn't pass for them. However, time passes for everybody else. So it was just neat to see in this series how they played that up, and how a father lost his daughter. And it turned out because he was chasing his daughter, he ended up younger than his daughter, and his daughter ended up older than he was because of that time travel.
Because of special relativity. The closer you travel to the speed of light relative to where you've left, the slower time passes for you. One name for it is the twin paradox. That if you got two twins, they're 20 years old, and one twin hauls ass away from planet Earth for 20 years, then hauls ass back at close to the speed of light, the twin who stays home might be 60, and the twin who comes back might still be like 21.
Yep. So it's just, with that with that idea of the time dilation and the paradox and all the other stuff, there's really no way for us to travel like you see in the movies. I think they said that even with the technology, we'd only be able to explore maybe not even 18%. I think it was less than 18% of the universe itself. Because, getting to these areas that are so far away from us, we're not, they've already moved because we're seeing the light from where they were. And so it's just wild and that's the coolest thing about space for me, and that idea. And they found with the James Webb Telescope, they found, what was it, on there was one planet they found methane and carbon dioxide in the air, which are trace elements for life. So it was it's kind of neat to think about those things. Sadly, we'll never ever see it.
Yeah, that they're logistically, because like Alpha Centauri, the closest star, we can't even reasonably travel much more than 1% the speed of light, even with the best technology. So that means to get to the nearest star, it's 400 years.
Yep. And then even wilder is the fact that, for example, even if part of the problem with the speed with travel is the speed, but there's more to it, because if you think about it, space isn't empty. As much as we believe it's just nothing is there. No, there's still particles and everything else going through.
If you're traveling at half the speed of light, you run into anything, even a dust particle, it can blow up your ship unless you've got some kind of massive shield to block or divert it's not logistically feasible at this point.
And it's just so wild to think that. The fact that there are so many hurdles to get over. And this was also why I thought it was actually kind of cool when they did the teleportation of a particle, if I remember, through the quantum tunneling. They actually used a fiber. They used a fiber line to actually do that basic teleportation in a sense. So is that how we're going to go? Be able to go from here to wherever we need to go? And it can't even be that far, because if we were to, for example, teleport to the moon, we die instantly in a sense.
So at least according to current knowledge, you can't transmit information instantaneously via quantum entanglement. I mean, quantum mechanics in general is a theory of incomplete information. You know, everything in the universe is fuzzy because the universe doesn't have enough information in it to precisely define everything. So quantum mechanics tells you how that works when you don't have enough information. So, and one of the rules, at least as yet, nobody's figured out a way around it, is, you know, you can't transmit information faster than the speed of light, even though you can have particles that are correlated, you know, that it doesn't do you any good.
And then, I mean, you know, so like, even if we were to be able to transmit, how do we transmit back? Because if the technology is not on the other end, then how do we send stuff back? So there's just so many complicated. But the coolest thing, you know, I like to think about, which would be kind of the wildest thing. So you like when you're traveling, when, you know, all the movies do from Star Wars to even Doctor Who, when you're traveling at light speed, how you see the lines. But if you were able to see at light speed, what would you see? Would it just be a sheet of light? Because if I remember, they just there was actually another science group that just photographed a photon. So are we going to see a bunch of photons? Would there be a bunch of pixels? Would it be a line?
The math of traveling close to the speed of light is tricky. And so few people have done it, but I've seen simulations. And it's not that things contract as much as they curl into a ball. That your forward view contracts. I haven't looked at it in a while, but it's not what you'd expect or you've been told.
I mean, it's just one of those things to think about, because there's what is it, the tiger beetle that runs faster than it can see. So it runs in spurts, and it basically it runs to a place that it knows is there because it goes blind as it's running. Not the tiger. It might be the tiger beetle, but I cannot remember the beetle's name. But yeah, it runs faster than it can see. So I mean, that's why, like I said, I mean, just thinking about would it? Yeah, how you said it's curling into a ball, but would it be like the black hole where everything is spaghettified? And it it's like a weird fisheye perspective,
like looking through, you know, one of those peepholes in your door.
Yeah.
But let's say Musk has his dream come true and people start living on Mars, which is highly unlikely. But let's say it's 300 years from now and they manage to do it, and there's a community of 5,000 people living on Mars. But they still want to talk to home. But depending on how far, you know, Earth and Mars are apart at the time, you know, there's a lag of 3 minutes, which means even Earth to Moon, there's a 3-second lag, in a second and a half out, second and a half back. I think you could use AI to buffer that. So AI gets kind of knows what, you know, how you talk, how you think, and you could have conversations where AI would fill in the gaps. But if you wanted to say something different than what AI said you were going to say, you could say it, and then AI would kind of issue a correction, or it would be some weird buffered, you know, gap filling way to talk that would be, it'd be a little crappy, but it would be better than say something, wait 3 minutes, say something again. Oh, speaking of science fiction, Black Mirror is coming back April 10th. Which is
I saw that.
Maybe the best science fiction series on TV right now. And it's good even if you hate science fiction, because it's all near future, and almost every story is how current and near future technology makes things shitty. It's always about some terrible aspect of the world.
It is, and I mean, what's wild is that some of it is actually true now. Like the social currency is real. There was I think it's in China that they were utilizing. It's either China or Japan, might be both, where they were using a social currency system. So that episode is now real.
I think the first episode had the Prime Minister of Britain being blackmailed into having to have sex with a pig. And it turned out that in college, as part of a hazing ritual, the Prime Minister of England had intimate relations with a freaking pig.
That's wild. That's wild. You know that they've got the someone has created the little robots that are the size of bees, and they were talking about utilizing those to help pollinate and pollinate plants, which is Black Mirror. That was an episode in Black Mirror.
There was an episode of Black Mirror where the internet social media would cancel somebody, and somebody would say or do something horrible. Let's say Trump, for instance, and this app popped up and said, should Trump be liquidated, and if we get 10,000 votes, we're gonna get rid of him, I believe, right? Was the deal.
Yep.
But then they turned it around and they used swarms of bees to go after the people who voted to kill other people.
Yep. That episode was pretty cool. There's also, well, even if you look at the AI technology when they're making the AI dolls, and remember the episode where basically the boyfriend died in a car crash, and she actually took his subconscious, or basically made him into an AI doll that she was still in love with.
Well, that's one reason I do this. I do this bullshit every day, that we're out here like yammering away to who knows how many people are actually listening every day, but at least it leaves a record. So if somebody wants to reconstruct me from all the stupid shit that I've said every day or posted on social media, they'll have enough footage to do it. That was a good episode. That was Brendan Gleeson gets resurrected, I think.
And even scarier now, though, the White Bear episode seems like that is actually a potential reality now, because of how the way the world is going. That one's getting scary, because that's the prison one where they force people to it was basically relive some form of trauma. It was a prisoner who had done something bad, and they forced them to forget everything so the town itself could basically create a trauma around this individual who had done something really wrong. So it was a way for the town to get back.
So, I mean, that's a big deal with, I don't know what we're going to do about justice in the future. Say some misfitty kid, 18 years old, shoots up a school and then in the future you can take that kid and you can chip his head and make him not psycho, turn him into, and does that mean that there's no justice, that you can't get retribution against the kid for killing 5 classmates because now the kid is innocent because he has a chip in his head that took away his bad impulses? That, I don't know.
Well, you got that one, and remember how they had it was the same thing with the chip in the head, where you're able, it messed. There were 2 episodes around actually there were more than 2, but there was the one where if you did something wrong and you got punished, they would remove your ability to see particular things based on the whatever you had done. So if I remember, they had blocked this individual because the individual got convicted of some type of sexual assault or something like that, couldn't see women. And that's
brutal.
Yeah.
And, all right. Other points in favor of Black Mirror. They get good actors, people you'd recognize. You know, the John Hamm, Bryce Dallas Howard starred in one that's pretty famous for where she is somebody who ties herself in all sorts of pretzels, you know, in order to get social currency. Spends all day, every day, trying to make internet friends because, you know, her whole life is defined by, you know, how many clicks she gets.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Black Mirror. That's why I liked Love, Death, and Robots as well as Secret Level, because it kind of dealt in that dark future era. Another show that's another great well, it's not on anymore. They needed another season, but they didn't do it because I don't know why. But it was a good futuristic show, and it dealt with space. Was The Expanse?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, Rick! You really have to watch The Expanse. So The Expanse was based off of a set of books. I didn't get a chance to read the book, so I can't comment on how well they were done. All I've heard is that they were great. It's like Game of Thrones in space, in a sense.
All right, but does stuff happen fast? Because I don't like Daredevil is back, and I like Daredevil kind of, and I would have liked it a lot more. And also Jessica Jones, all the Marvel second tier heroes that ended up having series on Netflix. I got really frustrated because they would take 8 hours to tell a story that should have been told in a 2-hour movie. Everything took way too long to lay out. There were all these slow builds, and I don't like it. I'll fall asleep.
So I will say that The Expanse first 1.5 seasons are slow builds. After that, it picks up. And because of that slow build they built in the whole first season, and then going into the second season, and then you're like, okay, I'm all caught up. And it really does pick up pretty fast. And you're looking left and right because things are happening, and you're ticked off of this and ticked off of that. But yeah, the first, yeah,
right. There's a pretty decent show, The Three Body Problem, that gets going pretty fast. That stuff happens. Well, one thing they do is it's not that you're not waiting. The science fiction stuff happens, but in the meantime, you've got the Chinese Cultural Revolution, which in the 60s, where frickin' under Mao killed like 50 million of his own people, and you get to see that. Now, it's not fun to see, but it's interesting to frickin' see how that happened. And so that was a clever way of having shit happen even before shit happens. Because like one of the scientists who suffered through the Cultural Revolution, and now she's pissed off at humanity, and that has implications later. Also, they have the most beautiful scientists who've ever been born. People like in the James Bond movie, Denise Richards played a nuclear physicist, which is ridiculous, but beauty. Was super hot. Same in Three Body Problem. They have the most just outrageously hot people doing science.
There is in terms of 2 other shows. Well, actually, there are 2 animes that you've got to watch in terms of science wise. And it starts fast because it's called Dead DDD Dead. Because what they do with this anime is they take the first episode is technically the last episode. So everything is going on, everything is happening, and it's extremely sad. And then it gets to then you go to the first episode, and then everything is sad because you know what's happened. You know what's going to happen.
Okay.
And so it's a neat little story.
Where do you see it? What's it on?
I think they put that one on Hulu. I know it's on Crunchyroll.
Okay.
The other one that actually does a lot of history, which is actually a really, really cool anime, and it's only got one season out right now, and it actually goes pretty fast. It's kind of right to the action, and it's very brutal. Very brutal. It's called The Elusive Samurai, and it actually it tells a great story. I mean, a phenomenal story. And it deals with the feudal lords and everything else. It's a very fun watch.
All right, so there's a movie that I want to see, but probably won't until it comes on streaming. It's called Mickey 17 that comes out.
I want to see that.
So it's Robert Pattinson, right? And he's called Mickey 17 because he's working on some brutal, I don't know, space colony, and he's Mickey 17 because the previous 16 got killed, and he just keeps getting cloned because it's cheap to clone him.
Yep.
And I think it's by the guy who did Snowpiercer, maybe.
I think so.
And so it's gonna be like goofy and fucked up, in addition to being brutal.
That's why I like the Fallout series. The Fallout series is funny.
Yeah, I like also James Gunn. I like his stuff. He did the second Suicide Squad, and a bunch of stuff happens. You don't have to wait too long for stuff to happen. The first Suicide Squad sucked. The second one was good. It had the right mix of pathos and goofiness and danger, right?
Yep.
And then he resurrected a character from Suicide Squad, the John Cena character, and gave him his own TV series.
Peacemaker is awesome. I gotta pick up little guy, so I gotta.
Okay, you're auto-tuning right now. All right, we might go back to Drudge. Here's Mark.
Get some Drudge stuff, and then it'll be time to wrap up in about 5 minutes anyway. So yeah, get some good stuff.
All right, Drudge. Back to Drudge. Where is? So yeah, we had like a 20-minute like a detour into TV science fiction. All right, looking at Drudge. Let's see. 70% of Israelis want Netanyahu to resign. That reminds me of the U.S., where Trump has dropped into negative net approval. Most people would prefer Trump not to be president, yet because of the various levers that our electoral system has, and that people can be propagandized, Trump has managed, one of the least popular president in history, got reelected. So it's similar for Netanyahu. Netanyahu, people think he's an asshole in Israel. 2/3 of Israelis want him gone, yet he has managed to hang on to power for 11 years? Because he knows how to work the levers. One more TV show, as long as Deli Boys, which is, I don't know what channel, Hulu maybe. It's the story of a pair of Pakistani brothers who inherit a convenience store, and it is freaking great because it's so bloody, because the convenience store, much to the surprise of the brothers, is the front for a drug operation. And you get to see all these great Pakistani and Indian actors being totally, well, total badasses. It's a comedy, but a comedy where it's got a pretty high body count, and you get to see all these actors that you've seen in a bunch of other stuff being sensitive, caring characters. Like the main female character played, a tiger mom, a very involved, caring mom on, I think the show was Never Have I Ever. And she was a super nice, the best mom in the world. And on this show, she's a crime lord who just likes to kill people. So it's a great show, and I enjoy it. I also enjoy imagining people seeing it in Pakistan and India, because I don't think they have ever seen anything as crazy as this. All right, that's Delhi Boys. What else? So people are buying cheaper stuff at supermarkets. Anywhere from Walmart on the lower end to Costco on the higher end. All these, when these companies report their earnings, they say that people are moving down the food ladder, that instead of buying fancy stuff at Costco, more people are buying ground beef because it's one of the cheaper proteins. Mark? Horrible stories of people who are U.S. citizens with passports, with ID, being detained by ICE, and then reconsidering whether they should have voted for the king of deportation. Horrible story out of Texas where a U.S. citizen, a 10-year-old kid with brain cancer undergoing treatment, gets deported along with the rest of his family because his parents are illegals, and ICE no longer wants to hear their excuse that they have to stay in the U.S. to get their kid treatment. What else?
We'll wrap up on that note and everything.
All right, let's do that.
I appreciate you and everything. So we'll get ready to eat everything, and I appreciate you.
Oh, wait, here's one more story. Man, I had just the headline: man held captive by stepmom for 20 years, weighed only 68 pounds. That is a terrible stepmom. All right. Cool. That's it. You can find, if you want to read the whole story, go to Drudge. Or since we're still here, I'll click on it. I'll see what. Oh, there's the stepmom being led away. She's a good-looking stepmom. Connecticut woman has been arrested for holding her severely emaciated stepson in captivity in their home for 20 years, since he was 11. Why? Now the 32-year-old man is 5'9", weighed just 68 pounds when he was found. The evil stepmom, 56-year-old Kimberly Sullivan.
All right.
Okay. All right.
Appreciate it.
All right. See you tomorrow.